Hey guys, how's it going? Yuri Elkaim back with you today. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's video and the Warrior Training Report. Today I'm going to talk to you about perhaps the most important aspect and very overlooked perspective of training, and that has to do with something I've got illustrated behind me here. And it all has to do with stress and how the body handles stress and your body's ability to recover from it. So before we talk about the workout stuff and how that all kind of ties in, let's define stress and how our body reacts to it. So almost half a century ago, Hans Selye, who is a world famous endocrinologist, came up with a term called general adaptation syndrome. And what he, based on his studies with animals, is he found that all humans and animals pretty much respond the same way to stress in 3 phases. The first phase is called the alarm reaction. And this is generally, so this curve would represent stress. And when you think about stress, it could be emotional stress, it could be physical stress, it could be stress from food, whatever it is, right? Initially, we go through, you've probably heard of this, the fight or flight response. And this is when the adrenal glands, which are located just above your kidneys, what they do is they're like little walnut-sized glands. They secrete a number of different hormones, 2 of which are epinephrine and norepinephrine, or adrenaline and noradrenaline. What they do, in conjunction with cortisol, which you've probably heard of as well, is they stimulate your body to be able to fight or flee, right? So you need to mobilize energy reserves, and so it shunts blood away from your stomach and digestive system, moving it to the muscles. It breaks down, or those hormones break down reserves of energy from like glycogen and fat stores to blood sugar, so you can use it for immediate energy and fuel, so you can run or fight. That's fight or flight. So that's the initial alarm reaction. So this would be like if I came out of nowhere and all of a sudden I was like, boom! That initial reaction you get is the alarm reaction, the fight or flight. Same thing if you go for a walk in the forest and a bear jumps out of a tree and kind of startles you, that's fight or flight. So you have to, like, you're either fighting or you're running. We haven't evolved since, early man, and this is pretty much how we respond all the time to stress. The second component, I'm going to call it adaptation. This is where over time your body adapts to stress. So this is chronic, this is kind of with chronic stress. And initially this stage can last for a year, it can last for a decade, it can last for a long time in some cases, depending on the constitution of the individual. So here, adaptation, we have higher cortisol levels. Cortisol is a very important stress hormone in the body, which again is secreted by the adrenal glands, but it's very interesting because it can only be in certain quantities within the blood. So if there's too much cortisol or too little cortisol, we have big problems. So there needs to be this kind of happy medium, and that's why it can kind of, the adrenal glands can pump out cortisol during this adaptation phase up to a certain point, whereby cortisol allows the body to deal with stress more effectively. When your body does not have cortisol, and they've done this in a lot of different animal-based studies, you cannot handle stress, you die earlier, and all that good stuff, right? So adaptation is the second part of this general adaptation syndrome. The third part is with constant stimulation, chronic stress is eventually your body wears down. Your body will break down, your adrenal glands will become absolutely shot. And you've probably heard of adrenal fatigue. Well, that's pretty much what happens in this third phase, which is called exhaustion. I mean, do I really need to explain that? So if this dotted black line was your baseline in terms of just general vitality or the functioning of your adrenal glands, alarm reaction, we get a spike in adrenal function, we get a spike of adrenal hormones. With time, with chronic stress, we have elevated levels of these hormones, so your adrenal glands are still working. You can see how over time that's going to wear them out, right? And that leads us to this third phase where we drop below baseline levels and we hit exhaustion. So this is where, first of all, your adrenal glands become absolutely exhausted. You feel exhausted. You wake up in the morning and you feel like a truck hit you. You have a tough time recovering from stressful situations. If you yell at somebody, or if you have a really kind of short kind of temper or burst of anger, you have a very tough time recovering from that. You feel drained afterwards. Those are all symptoms of this kind of stuff. Now, with this said, the reason I wanted to lay this out is because you need to understand this to understand the importance of workout programming. Now, there's a lot of, what we're talking about this week is really intense workouts to get you from a fit level, not a beginner level, right? A fit level to an incredibly fit level. This is very important to understand when you do this and if you want to do this, because the biggest mistake, I mean, I've worked with a lot of athletes, I've worked with a lot of different coaches, and the biggest mistake they all make is they believe that to go from here to here, you gotta go. You just gotta give her go, go, go nonstop. That's the biggest mistake you could possibly make. Because think about it this way. Exercise, when you are exercising at a high intensity or even a low intensity, generally the higher intensity, the greater the stress on your body. Okay, physically, mentally, you know how tough it is to push yourself through a tough workout, right? That is physically and psychologically taxing. Right there, okay? That over time, this adaptation, your body's ability to handle that initially is fine. But you continue doing that over and over and over again, months on end, years on end, your body will break down. And that is why, one of the reasons why professional athletes do not last past 35 years old. They simply can't. And you see like a 35-year-old athlete, he looks like he's 45 because their body has just taken so much beating. And not beating physically, like, you know, getting punched, but just the training and the physical stress of exercise. So exercise is a great thing, but you need to know how to program and schedule it properly. Now, I mean, I'm not a huge, I don't like to bash other programs, really. I mean, there's obviously a lot of programs out there and they work. If you follow them, they'll work. But there are better programs and there are less effective programs. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a couple workout programs you may have seen on TV that have you working out 6 days a week, 2 hours of workout for 12 weeks. That works out to be what? 12 hours a week of working out at a very high intensity, doing that for 12 weeks. Sure, you're going to get in good shape, but you're not going to be able to sustain that after the 12 weeks. In fact, you might actually feel pretty toast. And I've gone through these workout programs and I know what it feels like. So if you have as well, hopefully you can resonate with that. So what we need to look at is how do you stimulate your body with a quick surge of good stress in the form of intense exercise, but that's not too long, either in the exercise session or the entire duration of the program, while giving yourself ample strategies to help you recover and rejuvenate during and after that process. That is the key. Okay, it's not about go, go, go nonstop, just keep climbing and keep climbing. You need to have elements of lower intensity, total recovery to allow you to bounce back stronger. You may have heard of a concept called periodization, which essentially means you go through different microcycles and mesocycles and different training cycles essentially, and you intersperse them with periods of recovery. So that during those periods of recovery, your body is able to rejuvenate and recover so that it bounces back stronger for the next training cycle. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. So what we want to do is we want to avoid this exhaustion phase. We need to avoid it. Otherwise, it's very tough to recover from that. You can, but it takes a lot of work and pretty much no intense exercise, more or less. So we want to go from fit to amazingly fit. How do we do that? All right, so first of all, yesterday we talked about training strategies to lose fat, increase your cardio and strength endurance, to build brute strength. Those are all really important concepts. But what do you do? Do you do those kind of workouts 7 days a week? Do you do them for the rest of your life? Well, no, you don't. Here's what you do. You find the minimum effective dose. You find the minimum required exercise that will stimulate change without inducing exhaustion. And obviously, you don't have to do this because I've done it for you. Right? That's kind of why I do what I do. That's why I'm Yuri Elkaim. That's why I'm a fitness coach. That's why I'm a strength and conditioning coach. That's why I develop the programs I develop, to give you the peace of mind to not worry about getting into this whole exhaustion type of stuff. Because the problem is that a lot of people might go to a magazine, grab a men's health workout, and then just crank that out without really much structure other than that actual workout. So how often do you do it during the week? You don't know, right? So here's the thing. Other than the scheduling of the workouts, I mean, you can work out, I firmly believe that you can get amazing results with no more, like an absolute maximum of 5 workouts a week. And those 5 workouts a week are a combination of different types of workouts, not the same high intensity workout all the time. Now, in addition to that, and kind of working in with that, you want to be using strategies, for instance, like yoga. Okay? Now, if you are a hardcore, intense exerciser and you hear the word yoga, the first thing you might think about is, I'm not talking about that. Although that would be very effective as well at helping you reduce stress, and that's very important. So meditation is actually a very, very important strategy and a smart strategy that you could implement. There's nothing wrong with meditation. It's very, very powerful. But what I'm talking about is physically. So instead of feeling sore and stiff and achy all the time, you can incorporate things like yoga, active yoga, dynamic stretching, all these different elements of training and recovery to enable your body to open up tight areas, relieve tension, relieve stress. And I want to share with you a very short story. As I mentioned in the report, I'm no longer the official head and strength conditioning coach at the University of Toronto. I've kind of stepped back as a consultant now, so I'm kind of advising them and working with their coach, the strength conditioning coach, who's a friend of mine, kind of a younger guy, kind of learning the ropes. So one of the things we did a couple years ago was when I started getting into yoga, this is like 5 or 6 years ago now, my body started feeling absolutely unbelievable. And I was doing hot yoga 3 hours, not 3 hours, 90 minutes we'll say, but between travel time and all that, it worked out to be 3 hours. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Anyways, so I started doing yoga about 3 to 4 times a week, hot yoga. I felt unbelievable, but I said, you know what, taking 3 hours out of my day is way too much. So what I started to do is modify the yoga sessions, and I started kind of doing my own blend, my own variety of yoga. I then went to the University of Toronto with that program. There's kind of like a 25-minute routine that I developed, and I started working with our athletes with that yoga program. So before our games, 2 hours before kickoff, this is the soccer guys I'm talking about, we would do about a 20-minute yoga session just to really kind of get their mind focused on the game, loosen up a lot of stiffness because train 5 days a week, you have 2 games on the weekends, it's a pretty heavy schedule. So we would do that 2 hours before kickoff, go back into the change room, get all the pregame stuff done, come back out onto the field afterwards, and then do our official dynamic warm-up because you don't want a static stretch right before activity. Okay, so we did that before our games. We also implemented it about twice during the week, during training, after training really. What we found from the season prior to the season we started doing that was we found an 82% reduction in injury rates. Working with our sports med team and our physio and stuff, we tracked all this and it was mind-blowing. Now, here's another cool thing. A lot of the guys, being athletes and collegiate athletes were really apprehensive to this, and they said, well, why are we going to do yoga? After literally like 1 or 2 sessions, they started feeling lighter, like their legs felt better, they weren't as heavy, they were able to recover quicker and more effectively from training. They didn't wake up the next morning feeling stiff and achy and sore. And I started to think, well, you know what? This is pretty powerful. So I've shared that brand, that kind of my blend of yoga with a lot of different athletes outside of the soccer space, and we've seen similar results. So that's an example of something you can do to make a profound difference in helping your body reduce the stress that it's undergoing, because yoga is very relaxing for your mind and your body. And there's no disconnection, right? If your body is stressed, your mind is stressed. If your mind is stressed, your body is stressed. So you need to have strategies in place that are going to bring things down a level. Allow the adrenal glands to take a breather and not be overworked all the time. Another example is sleep. Sleep is so important, and most of us don't sleep properly. So either not sleeping enough or not getting good quality sleep. Sleep, stage 4 sleep, your deep sleep, is really when your body recovers. That's when it repairs itself. So if you're not getting to that stage of sleep, well, then you're not allowing your body to really rejuvenate and recover itself. So getting adequate sleep is very important. How much do you need? Well, it's tough to say. It really depends on the person and their lifestyle. But here's a tip I'm going to give you that's going to change your life if you follow this. Okay? It's a little bit tough to do, but if you're depending on if you have kids or whatever, if you can do this, it will make a profound difference. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every single day, 7 days a week, okay? Doing that is going to get your body, it's going to regulate your body's circadian rhythm, so there's no, I go to bed one night at 10 o'clock, the next morning at 2 in the morning, the next day at 11. There's no up and down, okay? It's like you go to bed at 10:30 or 10 o'clock or whatever time it is, and you wake up at the same time the next morning every single day. That's going to help your body regulate its circadian rhythm, regulate its adrenal function more effectively, because cortisol levels are actually highest at pretty much between like 7 and 8 in the morning, and that's one of the things that kind of stimulates us to wake up. So that's why when you don't want to wake up in the morning, that's one of the reasons, is because your cortisol levels aren't elevated enough to really wake you up. Okay, so if you can get to bed and wake up at the same time every day, it's going to make a huge difference in your energy levels, and it's going to be a very, very effective strategy at allowing your body to really relax and sleep more effectively. So why we're talking about this? Because again, we're talking about intense workouts to get you from fit to amazingly warrior fit, to help you train for adventure races, to help you get in amazing shape so you can shock your friends and just be like, what, like, they'd be asking you, what on earth are you doing? And not doing stupid stuff where you're training 2 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week and killing your body, but training intelligently. Okay, this is smart training, doing things properly, the minimum effective dose to get amazing results. And that's what I'm kind of sharing with you through these videos, is how to set up your workouts properly, how to recover more effectively. And again, you don't necessarily have to worry about doing all of this, because on Tuesday, we are releasing a brand new training system that is going to transform you in just 4 weeks. And it's incorporating all these elements I'm talking about. So we're going to avoid exhaustion. We're not going to train 7 days a week. We're going to work out smart. We're going to put together workout programs that are based on helping you burn fat, improving your cardio and strength endurance, boosting your strength, essentially helping you become an incredibly fit individual, whether that be for your next adventure race, or if it's your first one, or if you just want to feel incredibly fit in whatever area or you're kind of venturing into. So that is coming on Tuesday, August 28th. Do not miss it. Check your email. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be phenomenal, and I know you're really going to enjoy it as well. Again, this is not for beginners. I mean, if you're watching this video, you should not be a beginner, because we're not showing this content to a lot of the people that follow our stuff. It's really only for a small group of select individuals who have raised their hand and said, yes, Yuri, I am fit already. I want to get to the next level of fitness. I want to go from amateur to professional. And believe me, I spent 24 years of my life doing that. So I can speak from experience. This stuff works. It's going to work for you as well. And stay tuned for Tuesday for the big announcements. And I look forward to seeing you then.